Captain Hyun-woo Park stared at the green lights on his ship's control panel. His vessel, the Earth Guardian, moved slowly through the dark space near Proxima Centauri. Everything seemed normal. The stars looked the same as they did yesterday, and the day before that. He had been doing this patrol for 3 months now, and nothing exciting ever happened. Then the communication system made a loud beeping sound. "Captain, we're getting a message," said Lieutenant Yoo-jin. "Oh," from her seat at the communication station. "It's coming from everywhere, sir. All frequencies at once." Hyun-woo felt something cold in his stomach. Messages that came from everywhere usually meant trouble. Big trouble. "Put it on the main screen," he said. The screen filled with an image that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. 12 different alien faces looked back at them. These were the leaders of the Galactic Council, the group that controlled most of the known galaxy. Humans had met them only 200 years ago, and the meetings were always tense. The alien in the center spoke first. Its voice was deep and cold, like metal scraping against stone. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. We speak for 12 races and 3,000 worlds. You will listen." Hyun-woo's hands gripped his chair. The Council never talked. To humans directly, they always sent messages through their ambassadors or lower officials. This was different. "Your species has become a problem," the alien continued. "In 200 years, you have spread to 47 star systems. You build ships faster than any race we have seen. You learn our technology and make it better. This cannot continue." Another alien stepped forward. This one looked like a giant insect with 4 arms. "The Council has made a decision. You have 48 of your hours to do the following. First, all human military ships must be destroyed. Second, all human colonies outside your home system must be abandoned. Third, all humans must return to Earth and stay there. Fourth, your planet will be watched by Council forces." Hyun-woo felt his heart beating fast. They wanted humans to give up everything, all the colonies, all the ships, all the freedom they had fought so hard to get. "If you do not obey," said a third alien with red eyes, "we will make you obey. The Council fleet is already moving toward your system. We have 800 ships. You have, what, 300? Maybe less?" The message ended. The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody on the bridge said anything. Then Yoo-jin spoke in a quiet voice. "Sir, should I send this to Earth Command?" "Yes," Hyun-woo said. "Send it now. Priority 1. And tell them—" He stopped. What could he tell them? That the most powerful force in the galaxy wanted to destroy everything humans had built? "Tell them we need orders." Back on Earth, Admiral So-young Kim was drinking coffee in her office when the message arrived. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy for 30 years. When she saw the Council's message, she put down her coffee cup very carefully and pressed a red button on her desk. Within an hour, every important human leader was sitting in the emergency meeting room deep under Geneva. The room had no windows and thick walls. If the world ended, the people in this room would be the last to know. President Tae-jin-yoon looked tired. He was a tall man who usually smiled a lot, but today his face was serious. "So they want us to crawl back into our hole and stay there forever." "That's what it sounds like," said Admiral Kim. "But there's something else. Dr. Min-ho Lee has some information we need to hear." Dr. Lee was the head of Earth's xenobiology department. He studied alien life forms and cultures. He was a thin man with thick glasses who rarely left his laboratory. Today he looked scared. "I've been studying the Council races for 20 years, he began. "I've found some disturbing patterns in the historical records. Races that were once mentioned in old documents but don't exist anymore. Civilizations that suddenly disappeared from all records." He pressed a button, and images appeared on the wall screen. "In the past 3,000 years, 47 intelligent species have gone extinct. The official records say they died from natural disasters or wars among themselves, but I've found evidence that suggests something else. What kind of evidence? Asked General Chan-ho Kim, So-young's younger brother. Communication fragments, archaeological remains, survivor accounts from other species who escaped. Dr. Lee's voice got quieter. The Council has done this before, many times. They find a species that grows too fast or learns too quickly, and they eliminate it. The room got very quiet. Commander Ji-hai Choi, head of the Reconnaissance Division, stood up. She was known for her direct way of speaking. Are you saying the Council commits genocide? I'm saying they maintain control by removing threats, Dr. Lee replied, and apparently we're the latest threat. President Yoon rubbed his forehead. What are our options? Admiral Kim answered. We can surrender and hope they let some of us live on Earth. Or we can fight. Fight 800 ships with 300? Asked General Kim. That's suicide. Maybe, said Admiral Kim, but I'd rather die fighting than live as prisoners. The debate went on for hours. Some people wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to hide. A few suggested running away to the far edges of the galaxy. But as the hours passed, one thing became clear. The Council wasn't offering a choice. They were demanding complete surrender. Finally, President Yoon stood up. Dr. Lee, are you absolutely certain about your research? Yes, sir. The pattern is clear. The Council has destroyed 47 civilizations. If we surrender, we'll become number 48. President Yoon nodded slowly. Then we really have no choice. He looked around the room at all the faces watching him. Prepare a message to be broadcast on all human channels and send a copy to the Council fleet. An hour later, President Yoon sat in front of cameras in the same room. His message was simple and direct. To the Galactic Council and to all humans everywhere. The Council has demanded that we surrender our freedom, our colonies, and our future. They want us to become prisoners on our own world. They threaten us with destruction if we refuse. He paused and looked directly into the camera. After careful consideration, we have made our decision. Humanity will not surrender. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not give up our ships. We will not become prisoners. His voice got stronger. If the Council wants a fight, they will get one. If they want to destroy us, they will have to work for it. He stood up. To all humans in space, return to your stations and prepare for battle. To all humans on Earth and the colonies, know that we fight not just for ourselves, but for every species that the Council has destroyed. We choose to stand. The message ended. In space, Captain Hyunwoo received the President's message along with new orders. He was to return immediately to Earth and join the defense fleet. As his ship turned toward home, he looked back at the stars. One more time. Somewhere out there, 800 alien ships were coming to destroy everything he had ever known. But humanity would be ready for them. The war had begun. The 48 hours passed like a bad dream. All across human space, ships raced toward the Sol system. Miners left their asteroid stations. Cargo haulers dropped their loads. Even the old patrol boats that barely had working engines came limping home. Fleet Admiral Dong-Hyun Lim stood in the command center on Luna Base, watching the numbers on his screens. Every few minutes, another group of ships arrived, but the math was still terrible. Humans had managed to gather 293 ships. The Council fleet had 812. Sir, we're getting the first visual contact with the Council fleet, reported Lieutenant Min Soo-ha from the sensor station. They're at the edge of the system, just past Pluto. Dong-Hyun nodded. Put it on the main display. The screen filled with a sight that made everyone in the command center stop breathing. The Council fleet stretched across space like a metal city. Ships of every size and shape moved in perfect formation. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were round like planets. The biggest ones looked like floating mountains with weapons, sticking out everywhere. They're beautiful, whispered someone. They're death, said Admiral Dong-Hyun quietly. Captain Yoonji Han was aboard her destroyer, the Busan's Vengeance, when she saw the enemy fleet for the first time. She had been in space battles before, but never against odds like this. Her ship was part of the first attack wave, the group that would hit the Council fleet head-on while other human ships tried to attack from the sides. "Captain," said her weapons officer, "are we really going to charge straight at them?" Yoonji looked at her crew. They were all young, most of them barely out of the academy. They had joined the Space Force to explore new worlds, not to die fighting aliens. But here, they were. "Yes, we are," she said, "because someone has to go first, and because those ships out there have destroyed 47 other civilizations. If we don't stop them here, they'll destroy us too." She pressed the button that connected her to all the human ships in her group. "All ships, this is Captain Han. I know those Council ships look scary. I know the odds are bad. But remember this. They think we're just another primitive species they can crush easily. They think we'll break and run when we see their big fleet." She paused and smiled, even though her heart was beating fast. "Let's prove them wrong." On the Council flagship Eternal Dominion, Admiral Vexathara studied the human formations with 4 of his eyes while the other 2 watched the tactical displays. He belonged to the hegemony race, tall aliens with gray skin and 6 eyes that could see in different spectrums of light. "The humans are arranging their ships in attack formation," reported his tactical officer. "They appear to be planning a direct assault." Vexathara made a sound that was laughter in his species. "Primitive thinking. They see a larger force and think that charging bravely will somehow overcome the difference in numbers." He activated the communication system that reached all 800 Council ships. "All vessels, prepare for battle. The humans are about to demonstrate why their species must be eliminated. They lack the wisdom to know when they are beaten." But deep in the human fleet, something was happening that the Council couldn't see. Dr. Sang-Wook John worked frantically in his laboratory aboard the research ship Prometheus. For the past year, his team had been reverse engineering every piece of alien technology they could find. "Doctor, the quantum disruptor cannons are ready," said his assistant, Engineer Mi-young Bae. "All ships in the first wave have been equipped." "What? About the adaptive AI systems?" asked Dr. John. "Installing now. The computers will learn enemy attack patterns and automatically adjust our defensive systems." Dr. Jeon nodded. The Council races were older and had better basic technology, but they were also overconfident. They had been using the same weapons and tactics for thousands of years, because they always worked. Humans had only been in space for 200 years, but they learned fast and they adapted faster. Lieutenant Yu Jin-oh sat in the cockpit of her experimental fighter, Ghost Dragon. The ship was small and fast, built using technology that didn't exist a year ago. Her weapons could phase through energy shields. Her engines could change direction in ways that broke the normal rules of physics. "Ghost Dragon, this is Control," came a voice in her headset. "You are cleared for test flight. Control, this is Ghost Dragon, beginning attack run." Yu-jin pushed her fighter forward toward the Council line. Her ship was so small that it probably looked like a piece of space. Junk on their sensors? That was the plan. Back on the Council flagship, Admiral Vexathara watched the humans approach. Their formation was crude but aggressive. They came straight at the center of his line, just as he expected from a primitive species. "Sir, should we fire a warning shot?" asked his gunnery officer. "No," said Vexathara. "Let them get closer. When they see our full firepower, they will surrender." "Most species do." But the humans didn't slow down. They kept coming. "Sir, they're in weapons range now." "Very well. All ships open fire. Show them what real power looks like." The Council fleet lit up space with energy beams and plasma cannons. Thousands of weapons fired at once, creating a wall of deadly light between the 2 fleets. It was the kind of firepower that had destroyed planets. The humans flew straight into it. What happened next surprised everyone. The human ships didn't explode or turn back. Instead, they seemed to dance between the energy beams. Their formations broke apart and reformed in seconds. Ships that should have been destroyed somehow weren't there when the weapons reached them. "What's happening?" demanded Vexithera. "Sir, the humans appear to be using some kind of adaptive shielding. Our weapons are hitting them, but they're not taking damage." That wasn't exactly true. The human ships were taking damage, but their AI systems were learning how Council weapons worked and adjusting the shields in real time. What looked like invulnerability was actually just very fast adaptation. Captain Yoonji Han watched her tactical display as her destroyer charged through the Council barrage. Warning lights flashed all around her bridge, but her ship kept flying. "Captain, their energy weapons are operating on predictable frequencies," reported her science officer. "Our computers are learning to block them." "Excellent. All weapons, target their command ships. Let's see how they like our new toys." The Busan's Vengeance fired its quantum disruptor cannons. The purple energy beams passed right through the Council ship's shields, as if they weren't there. The beams hit the hull and started tearing it apart from the inside. "Impossible," breathed Vexithera as he watched one of his heavy cruisers come apart. "Their weapons just went through our shields. Sir, multiple human ships are using the same weapon type. Our shields are useless against them." All across the battle line, Council ships started taking damage. The humans were using weapons that ignored shields and AI that learned faster than the aliens could adapt. Lieutenant Yujin Oh reached the Council formation in her small fighter. Her ship was so fast and maneuverable that the big alien ships couldn't target her. She flew between them like a bird flying through a forest. "Ghost Dragon to all human ships," she said into her radio. "I'm marking target points on the enemy flagships. Their shield generators are located at these coordinates." She painted targets with her laser designator. Within seconds, human ships throughout the fleet were focusing their fire on those exact spots. Admiral Vexithera felt his flagship shake as human weapons hit his shield generators. "All ships, fall back to secondary formation. We need time to analyze their tactics." But falling back was harder than advancing. The Council ships had been arranged for a forward assault, not a retreat. As they tried to reorganize, the humans pressed their attack. Captain Hyun Woo brought his ship Earth Guardian alongside a Council destroyer. His crew fired grappling hooks and magnetic clamps. Within minutes, human soldiers were cutting through the alien hull. "Boarding parties away," he reported. "We're going inside." The Council had never faced boarding actions during ship-to-ship combat. Their tactics were built around long-range energy warfare. They didn't know how to fight humans, who got up close and personal. All across the battle zone, human ships attached themselves to Council vessels like parasites. The aliens found themselves fighting hand-to-hand combat in their own corridors, something they hadn't trained for in centuries. The battle was turning into something the Council had never experienced. They were losing to a force half their size, using weapons and tactics that made no sense. Admiral Vexithera finally understood what was happening. The humans weren't fighting like civilized species. They were fighting like barbarians, wild, unpredictable, adaptive barbarians who learned new tricks in the middle of battle. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Council was facing an enemy that could adapt faster than they could react. The war was far from over, but the first battle belonged to humanity. The battle had been going on for 6 hours, and space around Earth was filled with fire and metal. Broken pieces of ships drifted everywhere. Some were human, but most were Council vessels that had been torn apart by weapons they didn't understand. Captain Junho Nam led a group of human corvettes in a deadly game of hide-and-seek with Council cruisers. His ships were small and fast, like wolves hunting elephants. They would dart in, fire their quantum disruptors, and disappear before the big alien ships could respond. "Tiger 1 to Tiger Pack," he said into his radio. "Council cruiser at bearing. 270 is damaged. Moving in for the kill." His 6 corvettes spread out in a hunting formation. The Council cruiser was 3 times bigger than all his ships combined, but its shields were down and its weapons were offline. It was helpless. "All ships, focus fire on the engine section. Let's send another one home in pieces. The corvettes attacked from 6 different directions at once. The council cruiser tried to turn to face them, but it was too slow and too damaged. Within minutes, its engines exploded and the ship began to drift. Good kill, Tiger Pack. Find another target. Admiral. Haewon Shin watched the battle from her command ship and smiled. The council fleet was starting to break apart. Their perfect formations were turning into chaos as human ships hit them from every direction. All ships, execute Operation Checkmate, she ordered. Operation Checkmate was simple but brilliant. Instead of fighting the council fleet ship to ship, human vessels would use their smaller numbers as an advantage. They would move through the enemy formation like water flowing through rocks, hitting targets and disappearing before the aliens could coordinate a response. The plan worked because the council had never fought an enemy that moved like this. Their tactics were based on big formations firing at other big formations. They didn't know how to deal with small groups that attacked from everywhere at once. Commander Seokjin Kang had been waiting for his chance all day. His assault ship, Soul Hammer, was designed for one purpose: getting human soldiers inside enemy vessels. When he saw the Council Dreadnought Eternal Dominion separated from its escorts, he knew it was time. "Boarding team, prepare for insertion," he announced. "We're going to take their flagship." The Soul Hammer was built like a flying drill. Its front end could punch through almost any hull, and its sides were covered with armor and weapons. Kang aimed his ship at the Dreadnought's command section and pushed his engines to maximum power. The Council ship tried to shoot him down, but human fighters swarmed around it, destroying its defensive weapons. The Soul Hammer hit the alien hull like a bullet and kept going, drilling deep into the ship's interior. "Breach successful!" shouted Kang. "All teams, go, go, go!" 100 human soldiers poured out of the assault ship into the Council Dreadnought. The aliens inside weren't ready for close combat. They had been trained to fight with energy weapons from a distance, not with bullets and explosives in narrow corridors. The humans moved through the ship like a flood. They had studied the layout of Council vessels and knew exactly where to go. Within an hour, they had captured the engine room, the weapons control center, and most importantly, the main computer core. Chief Engineer Mi Young-bae was one of the first humans to reach the computer center. She looked at the alien control panels with excitement. This was treasure beyond imagination. "Commander Kang, this is Engineer Bae. I'm in their central computer system, beginning data extraction now." She plugged her portable computer into the alien systems. Human software began copying everything it could find: fleet communication codes, tactical databases, weapon specifications, star charts, and most importantly, historical records. What she found in those records made her blood turn cold. "Sir, you need to see this immediately." Dr. Young-soo Park was aboard his research vessel when he received the transmitted data from the captured dreadnought. As Earth's leading expert on galactic history, he had been studying alien civilizations for decades. But what he saw in the Council files was worse than his worst fears. The files contained detailed records of 47 pacification operations carried out over the past 3,000 years. Each one followed the same pattern. A species would develop space travel and start expanding. The Council would classify them as a potential threat. Then they would demand surrender. If the species refused, the Council would destroy their fleets, bomb their colonies, and sometimes eliminate their entire civilization. The survivors, if any, would be relocated to prison planets where they slowly died out. "They're not trying to control us," Dr. Park said to his assistant. "They're trying to extinct us." He immediately transmitted his findings to every human ship in the fleet. Within minutes, every human captain, every soldier, every engineer knew the truth. They weren't fighting for independence. They were fighting to avoid becoming extinct, like 47 other species. The knowledge changed everything. Human fighters started taking bigger risks. Human captains stopped thinking about retreat. Human soldiers fought with the fury of people who knew they had no choice but to win. Captain Su Jin Yang was leading an attack on a council carrier when she heard the news. Her destroyer was already damaged and running low on ammunition, but she didn't hesitate. All weapons, target that carrier's flight deck. If they launch fighters, we're finished. Her ship fired everything it had at the alien carrier. Energy beams and missiles struck the massive vessel, tearing holes in its hull. Alien fighters exploded inside their launch bays. Direct hit! Their flight deck is burning all across the battlefield. Human ships pressed their attacks with new intensity. They had been fighting for survival before. Now they were fighting for revenge. The Council fleet began to fall apart. Their commanders couldn't understand what had changed. The humans had been fighting well before, but now they fought like demons. They took damage that should have forced them to retreat, but instead, they kept attacking. Admiral Vexathara realized he was losing the battle. His fleet had started with 800 ships. Now he had less than 400 that could still fight. The humans had lost ships, too, but their remaining vessels were fighting harder than ever. "All ships, fall back to the outer system," he ordered. "We need to regroup." But retreating was harder than he thought. Human ships followed the Council fleet like hunting dogs. They attacked stragglers and picked off damaged vessels. What should have been an organized withdrawal became a running fight. The turning point came when Colonel Hyung-Min Chai led a boarding action against the Council's main ammunition ship. His team of 50 soldiers captured the vessel and then used it as a weapon. "All human ships clear the area around Grid 77 Alpha," he announced. "Big surprise coming your way." He set the alien ammunition ship on a collision course with a group of Council cruisers, then escaped with his team in their assault pods. When the ammunition ship exploded, it took 4 Council vessels with it and damaged 6 more. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. Council ships throughout the fleet could see it, and they understood the message. The humans would use any weapon, take any risk, to destroy their enemies. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun Lim watched the battle from Luna Base and allowed himself a small smile. The human fleet was winning, but the cost was terrible. They had started with 293 ships. Now they had less than 150 that could still fight, but the Council was in worse shape. Their perfect formations were broken. Their advanced tactics had failed against human unpredictability. Most importantly, their morale was breaking. "Sir, we're getting surrender signals from several Council ships," reported his communication officer. "Accept their surrender, but keep them under guard," Dong Hyun replied. "We're not finished with them yet." The first phase of the battle was ending. The Council fleet was retreating toward the outer planets, and human ships were hunting them down. But Admiral Dong Hyun knew this was just the beginning. The Council would regroup and try again. They would call for reinforcements from their home worlds. This fight was far from over, but for the first time since the war began, humans had hope. They had faced the most powerful force in the galaxy and proven they could win. The Council had demanded capitulation. Humanity had answered with annihilation, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council fleet was running like a wounded animal, but Admiral Chon Ho Kim had no intention of letting them escape. His ships had been hiding in the asteroid belt for hours, waiting for this moment. The aliens thought they were retreating to safety, but they were flying straight into a trap. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim. The enemy is approaching your positions. Remember, we want prisoners, not just wreckage. We need their ships intact." Captain Su Jin Yang positioned her battered destroyer behind a large asteroid. Her ship had taken heavy damage in the main battle, but her weapons still worked. She watched her sensors as the Council fleet approached. "Contact," whispered her sensor operator. "Multiple ships, bearing 090. They're moving fast." "Hold position," Yang ordered. "Let them get deeper into the belt." The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was a perfect place for an ambush. Thousands of rocks provided cover for human ships while making it impossible for the Council fleet to maintain formation. The aliens had to spread out and slow down, making them easy targets. Colonel Hyung-Min Chae was leading a different kind of hunt. His boarding teams were scattered throughout the belt, waiting on specially equipped asteroids. When Council ships passed close enough, his soldiers would launch themselves across space in armored suits. Dragon Team. Target approaching. Council. Heavy cruiser. Minimal escort. Begin insertion in 30 seconds. Che and his 20 soldiers fired their personal rockets and flew through space toward the alien cruiser. They looked like tiny metal insects against the massive enemy ship, but they carried enough firepower to cripple a vessel 10 times their size. The Council ship didn't see them coming until it was too late. Che's team attached magnetic charges to the hull and blew holes in the armor. Within minutes, they were inside, fighting their way toward the ship's control center. But the most devastating attack was happening far from the battle zone. Commander Wu Jin Moon had spent years mining asteroids before joining the military. He knew how to move big rocks through space, and today he was using that knowledge as a weapon. Hammer 1 to control, he reported from his position near a massive asteroid. Target is locked. Beginning gravity manipulation now. Moon's ship was equipped with gravity manipulators, devices that could push or pull large objects through space. He had attached these devices to several huge asteroids and aimed them at the Council fleet's projected path. Gravity pulse in 3, 2, 1, mark. The asteroid, big as a city block, began moving toward the Council fleet. It looked slow from a distance, but it was traveling at thousands of kilometers per hour. When it hit the alien formation, it would be like throwing a mountain at them. Admiral Vexathara watched his tactical display with growing fear. His fleet was trapped in the asteroid belt with human ships attacking from every direction. Worse, some kind of massive object was approaching his position at high speed. "What is that thing?" he demanded. "Sir, it appears to be a large asteroid, but it's moving too fast and in the wrong direction to be natural." "They're throwing rocks at us," said Vexathara in disbelief. "The humans are actually throwing rocks at us." The asteroid smashed into the Council formation like a giant hammer. 3 ships were completely destroyed, crushed to pieces by millions of tons of rock and metal. 5 more ships were badly damaged by flying debris. But the worst damage wasn't physical. It was psychological. The Council fleet had been designed to fight civilized enemies who used civilized weapons. They weren't prepared for humans who would weaponize asteroids. Dr. Yoon-Young Kwon was working in her mobile laboratory when she made the discovery that would end the battle. She had been studying captured Council technology, trying to understand how different alien species could work together so effectively. "That's it!" she shouted to her assistants. "They use neural implants to communicate. Different species, different languages, but the implants translate everything in real time." She looked at the alien communication device she had been examining. It was small and complex, designed to link different types of alien brains into a single network. "If we can disrupt these implants, the Council fleet will lose all coordination." Working frantically, she developed a broadcast signal that would interfere with the neural implants. It wouldn't hurt the aliens, but it would make it impossible for them to understand each other. "Dr. Kwon to Fleet Admiral Lim, I have a new weapon ready for deployment." Fleet Admiral Byung-Ho Park received the weapon specifications and immediately understood their importance. The Council's greatest strength was coordination between 12 different species. Without that coordination, they would be helpless. All ships, prepare to deploy neural disruptor fields on my command. Throughout the human fleet, ships activated the new devices. Invisible energy fields spread across the battle zone, targeting the Council fleet's communication systems. The effect was immediate and devastating. Council ships that had been working together perfectly suddenly couldn't understand each other. Orders became gibberish. Tactical data turned into noise. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Vexathara watched his fleet fall apart. His officers were trying to communicate with other ships, but all they heard was alien babble. "Sir, we've lost contact with the rest of the fleet," reported his communication officer. "The neural translators aren't working." Vexathara felt something he hadn't experienced in 3,000 years of warfare: panic. His fleet was blind and deaf, scattered throughout the asteroid belt with human wolves circling for the kill. But worse than the communication breakdown was what happened next. Without the neural implants to maintain unity, old hatreds between council species began to surface. The insect-like hive suddenly remembered that the hegemony had once enslaved their ancestors. The energy beings called Flux recalled ancient territorial disputes with the metal-skinned Forge. Council ships began firing on each other. Captain Jae-hyun Sim watched in amazement as two council cruisers destroyed each other while human ships simply observed. Control. This is Sim. The enemy fleet is fighting itself. Confirmed, Captain. Stay back and let them do our work for us. All across the asteroid belt, council ships turned their weapons on former allies. 3,000 years of carefully maintained peace collapsed in minutes. Ancient grudges and racial hatred exploded into violence. The humans didn't even need to fight anymore. They just watched as the council fleet tore itself apart. Admiral Vexithara tried desperately to restore order, but his ships couldn't hear his commands. He watched in horror as his magnificent fleet became a chaotic brawl between species that had worked together for millennia. All ships, retreat to your home systems, he finally broadcast on all frequencies, hoping someone would understand. Emergency dispersal, code black. But even retreat was impossible now. Council ships couldn't coordinate their movements. Some tried to escape toward the outer system only to collide with other council vessels. Some tried to surrender to the humans but were fired upon by their own allies who thought they were human ships. The proud council fleet, which had conquered 47 civilizations, was destroying itself. Captain Hyunwoo Park brought his ship alongside a damaged council destroyer that was trying to escape. The alien vessel had been abandoned by its crew, who had escaped in life pods rather than face human boarding parties. Control. This is Park. Another ship for the salvage crews. The aliens are abandoning their vessels rather than fight us. Throughout the battlefield, human ships collected abandoned council vessels. Each ship contained technology worth studying and records worth preserving. Most importantly, they contained evidence of the Council's crimes against extinct civilizations. Tatwari battle was ending, but not with a final explosion or dramatic last stand. It was ending with the complete collapse of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Colonel Che's boarding teams had captured 17 Council ships. Commander Moon's asteroid bombardment had destroyed or damaged 30 more. Dr. Kwan's neural disruptors had turned allies into enemies, but the most devastating weapon had been human unpredictability. The Council had prepared for conventional warfare. They hadn't prepared for an enemy that would throw asteroids, board ships in the middle of battle, and turn their own unity against them. As the last Council ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, Admiral Park made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. All pursuit ships, follow the survivors. I want them to reach their home worlds. I want the entire galaxy to know what happens when you threaten humanity. The hunt was just beginning. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, only 12 Council ships had made it back to their home worlds. Captain Jae-hyun Sim's pursuit fleet had followed them across the galaxy, making sure the survivors reached their destinations. Humanity wanted every civilization to hear the story of what happened when you threatened Earth. The news spread across known space like wildfire. The mighty Galactic Council, rulers of 3,000 worlds for 3 millennia, had been crushed by a species that barely had space travel 200 years ago. Some races didn't believe it at first. Others celebrated in secret. President Hye-jin Lee stood before the United Earth Assembly in the same room where her predecessor had declared war. But everything was different now. The room was filled with representatives from dozens of species who had come to Earth seeking protection. The Council is finished, she announced. Their fleet is destroyed. Their unity is broken, but our work is just beginning. She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of extinct civilizations that the Council had destroyed over the centuries. Blue dots showed surviving species that were emerging from hiding. We have discovered the locations of 47 civilizations that the Council claimed were extinct. Some of them really are gone forever, but others have survivors, hiding in remote systems, afraid to show themselves. The display zoomed in on a small star system near the galactic edge. 3 weeks ago, we found them. The builders, supposedly extinct for 800 years. They've been hiding on a dead moon, afraid the Council would finish what they started. Admiral Ki-tae-jung was in charge of the new human protection fleet. His ships patrolled former Council territory, hunting down war criminals and protecting refugees. It wasn't easy work. Some Council species still had powerful fleets, and they didn't appreciate humanity's new role as galactic police. Admiral Jung to Earth Command, he reported from his flagship. We've located another survivor colony, the Harmonics, supposedly extinct for 1,200 years. They're requesting protection and assistance. Jung's fleet wasn't just about military power. His ships carried engineers, doctors, teachers, and supplies. Humanity had learned that destroying enemies was easier than helping friends, but both were necessary. Dr. Sun Young Cho led the archaeological teams that investigated the dead worlds. Each planet told a story of destruction and loss. Some had been bombed from orbit until nothing lived. Others had been poisoned with biological weapons. A few had simply been abandoned after their populations were relocated to prison worlds. This was the Dreamer homeworld, she explained to her team as they explored a ruined city. The Council records say they were destroyed by civil war, but look at this. She pointed to scorch marks on the buildings. These are energy weapon impacts. Council energy weapons. The Dreamers didn't destroy themselves, they were murdered. Each discovery made the archaeological teams more determined to uncover the truth. Every piece of evidence was cataloged and preserved. The galaxy needed to know what the Council had really been doing for 3,000 years. The former Council races faced a choice that none of them had expected. For millennia, they had been the rulers of the galaxy. Now they were being judged by the species they had once controlled. The hegemony, Admiral Vexathera's people, were the first to surrender. They offered to turn over all their military assets and submit to human oversight. Other races took longer to decide. The Hive sent a delegation to Earth carrying what they called the gift of forgiveness. It was a living coral that could clean poisoned atmospheres, something they offered to help restore the worlds they had helped destroy. But not all Council races chose surrender. The Forge, a species of mechanical beings, declared that they would rather fight than bow to organic primitives. Their war lasted 6 months and ended when human engineers figured out how to give their ships computer viruses. Commander Dongwu Shin established the first human protection fleet base in former Council space. It was built in the ruins of a Council fortress that had once terrified local species. Now it was humanity's headquarters for keeping the peace. This is Commander Shin to all ships in Sector 7, he broadcast on the emergency frequencies. We have reports of slave raids in the Keltori system. All available vessels respond immediately. The slave raids were a new problem. With the Council gone, some species thought they could return to the old days of conquest and exploitation. They learned quickly that humanity had different ideas about justice. Shin's ships arrived at Keltori just as the raiders were loading captured civilians onto their transport ships. The raiders belonged to a species called the Reapers, who had been Council allies for over 1,000 years. Reaper vessels. This is the human protection fleet. Release your captives immediately and surrender for trial, the Reaper commander responded, with contempt. Humans, you have no authority here. These are our traditional hunting grounds. Wrong answer, said Shin. The battle was brief and decisive. Human ships disabled the Reaper vessels without destroying them, then boarded to free the captives. The Reaper crews were taken prisoner and later tried for crimes against sentient beings. Word spread quickly through the galactic underground. The humans weren't just fighting wars, they were enforcing laws that protected everyone, even species they had never met. Dr. Min-Ho Lee, now serving as Earth's ambassador to former Council worlds, worked to establish the new galactic order. It wasn't easy. Some species wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Others wanted to become oppressors themselves. "The cycle has to end," he explained to a gathering of planetary representatives. "For 3,000 years, the strong have dominated the weak. The Council convinced everyone that this was natural law. But it's not natural. It's a choice." He showed them images from the dead worlds. "This is what happens when the strong decide that the weak don't deserve to exist. 47 civilizations, billions of individual lives, all lost because someone decided they were inconvenient." The new galactic government wasn't based on strength or ancient tradition. It was based on a simple principle. All sentient life had value and deserved protection. Captain Min-Soo Ha was exploring the ruins of the Council's central archive when he made the most important discovery of all. Hidden in a vault deep underground, he found something that made him call Earth immediately. "Sir, you need to see this. We've found survivors, not just a few individuals, entire populations." The Council hadn't just killed the species they conquered. They had also enslaved millions of people and hidden them on secret prison worlds throughout the galaxy. Some had been held for over 1,000 years, their children and grandchildren born into captivity. The rescue missions took 2 years to complete. Human ships traveled to forgotten star systems and liberated entire civilizations that the galaxy thought were extinct. Some of the prisoners were so old that they remembered their homeworlds. Others had been born in captivity and didn't even know what freedom meant. But they all learned. The first joint session of the new Galactic Assembly was held on Earth, in the same city where humanity had once declared war on the Council. Representatives from over 300 species gathered to write new laws for the galaxy. The main principle was simple. Never again would one species be allowed to decide the fate of another. The strong would protect the weak, not exploit them. Knowledge would be shared, not hoarded. Justice would be for everyone, not just the powerful. Admiral So-Young Kim, now elderly but still sharp, gave the closing speech. The Council promised order through strength. They delivered death through fear. We offer something different: protection through justice, peace through equality. She looked out at the assembly, filled with representatives from species that had been enemies, victims, and survivors. "The old galaxy is dead. Today we begin building a new one." The transformation wasn't perfect or immediate. There were still wars, still injustices, still species that preferred the old ways of doing things. But for the first time in galactic history, there was hope. Children of extinct civilizations learned about their heritage from rescued artifacts. Former slaves built new homes on worlds where their ancestors had once lived. Species that had hidden, in fear for centuries, emerged to reclaim their place in the galaxy. And at the center of it all was Earth, the small blue world whose people had refused to surrender when surrender seemed like the only option. The Council had demanded capitulation. Humanity had answered with annihilation. But in the ashes of the old order, something new and better had grown. A galaxy where strength served justice, where the powerful protected the weak, and where no one would ever again face extinction simply for existing. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. But for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy had hope.